Hello, everyone. For anyone who knows me, I am Nirine, and I am a women's health coach, and I have spent the last 15 years with endometriosis and endometriosis symptoms. And last week, I finally got a surgery date, and it's happening in 6 weeks from now. So I decided I was going to come on and do a vlog over the next few weeks and just kind of show how I'm helping myself optimize my health, my body, my inflammation, my nervous system as well, along with all the different things in life and how I'm coping with it while going through and preparing myself for surgery. Because I think what a lot of people fail to realize is that whether it is what they call it, keyhole surgery or any kind of surgery, it's still a form of trauma to the body, but also it can bring up a lot for us if we are deeply in tune with ourselves and we're willing to look at what it is that's coming up for us before, during, and after the surgery. So yeah, I just wanted to create this little vlog that would help women to maybe prepare beforehand, and give them some tips and tricks that maybe helped me over the time, but also to see how we don't have to allow endometriosis to be so debilitating within our lives. And this is from somebody who, you know, I've been on the pill, I've been on the injection. I had surgery exactly 10 years ago, the first time around where they couldn't find anything. But then, you know, there was reasons behind that too. And I numbed with alcohol. I then tried the whole lifestyle stuff, which did work to a point. But then I fell into body dysmorphia because that's what you do. And from there, I just was taken on this whole journey of coming back to how important it is to look after our health, the root cause of endometriosis as well, that many won't speak about. And also just how we can actually manage our symptoms on a day-to-day basis, because the body is telling us something. Endometriosis isn't actually a hormonal condition. It impacts the hormones, but actually it's an immune issue. It's a chronic disease. So to be able to deal with that, it means that we need to look at the body as a whole, because it impacts so much of our health on a day-to-day basis. It impacts our energy levels, as I said, hormones. It impacts, it can impact career for a lot of people. And I have just chosen to not want to allow it to impact me in that way, but I also don't want to have to be on birth control or be doped up on painkillers 90% of the time like I used to, just to get through my day and my life. So before I do talk a little bit more about how I'm going to go about this, what I do want to say is that, like, this lifestyle I have been in and out of for years. And specifically in the last 2 years, I really took control of it. And I'm starting to see the benefits over particularly the last 6 months, in how I manage stress, in how I manage my symptoms, in the less symptoms that I have. I'm mostly, up until the 2 days before and possibly the first day of my period, I'm mostly symptom free now. I might every so often have another symptom crop up, but it's very rare that it's every single month like it used to be, and it's not debilitating fatigue for 3 weeks of every month. So yeah, I began having symptoms when I was 14. And, you know, as all people, sorry, I'm making my breakfast, as all people who had it from a young age, I was told by my mum, my school teachers, my doctor that, you know, pain is normal, pain is fine. And, you know, the irregularity in which they came, it takes about 5 years for a period to actually settle in the body. So, you know, that piece was actually okay. But it was the debilitating pain, it was the migraines I was getting every month. I'd lose feeling in my legs. I would end up back home in bed, I wasn't safe to be in school. So this became a thing. And over the years, I just knew there was something wrong. And I did advocate for myself for years in the doctor's office, but they would start things and then they were like, oh, we'll check you for Crohn's, we'll check you for this, because my symptoms were so IBS related as well. And then I moved to the UK and they were great. They really looked after me. But before I could get my surgery there, I actually had to move home because I graduated from university. And at that point, I was on 2 lots of 500 milligram ibuprofen and 2 lots of 500 milligram paracetamol, I could be wrong, every few hours to keep myself going. I had complete insomnia. I could be found anywhere. I could be found on the bathroom floor. I'd pass out. I was in chronic pain. It was hard to study. It was hard to sleep. I was also incredibly abusing my body with all crappy foods and a lot of alcohol, which we all do when we move away from home. And I'd been put on the pill. So I was on the progesterone only pill at the time. And as I said, I came home and then started to work and went through the Irish system. And as I said, 10 years ago, I then went in for my first surgery. And when I came out of it, because I'd been on the injection, I had to be taken off 3 months in advance. They said I was too inflamed to get to what they needed to, where they thought the endo was at the time. And they did find that I had retrograde menstruation, which is a cause and is a symptom of endometriosis. So at that moment in time, the nurse sat me down. She said, right, you have a few options. You can go back on birth control and painkillers and manage it that way. You can have a hysterectomy. You can go and get yourself pregnant. Or we can put you into a chemical menopause. And I was sitting there, 23 years old. I'd just gone through my first ever surgery, by the way. And I was like, I kind of questioned her and I was like, right, so if this is on my bowel and you're taking out my womb, how is that going to help my symptoms? Because there's still going to be estrogen in my body at least for a few months, if not maybe a few years before it fully calms down. And she's like, oh, well, I've no answer for you. I then said to her, well, I'm 23 years old. Like if I get pregnant now, who's going to look after this baby? Because I can't financially afford to. And she said, well, I don't know. That's not for me to figure out effectively. And then I said to her, I was like, I don't want to be on birth control long term. I was like, this isn't going to help. So if you put me into a chemical menopause, what happens if I want to come out? And she said, well, you can either come out or you might not. Depends how long we've been inducing it. And I was like, okay, no, there's got to be a different way. And that's when I first stepped out of there and decided that I was going to look at this differently. That I don't believe, and many people are going to get very triggered by this, but I don't believe that endometriosis is incurable. I truly believe that we are unlimited. We can completely eradicate something. And sure, you might need like I'm doing, a bit of like Eastern and Western medicine. So I work mostly holistically, but I do know that surgery might be required to just remove what is needed so I can continue on from ground zero. And I'm okay with that. But I do think it's really, really important that we don't limit ourselves by being like, I'm stuck with this for life. This is always going to be a problem, because I actually truly don't believe that for myself. And that can be really hard to face. But over the last few years, I've worked on my nervous system, because a big thing that activates endometriosis is stress on the body and cortisol, along with trauma and healing work around my own wounds and how I show up in the world, and along with my lifestyle. So at the moment, my lifestyle is like, bear in mind, I don't just sit at home all day. And I do work a 9-to-5 job. We're currently in the midst of looking to move. Yeah, I know, this close to surgery, and we're going to move county. We're not just moving next door. You know, I'm also, as I said, I'm a coach, and I'm trying to start back up my business slowly. I'm studying at the moment in a certification. I have a social life. As I said, I work out, I cook, I clean. Obviously, I've had a beautiful husband who helps me in that too. But, you know, these are things that tend to have to happen, along with like trying to downsize a house before you move. And all the other stresses of life. You know, I'm not immune to any of them. I don't keep myself held up somewhere where people can't find me. And I will continue to live my life this way over the next few months. But as I said, my lifestyle I have worked on for years, it's starting to really come together now. But there are things I can do and be a little bit better with over the last few weeks before I go into the surgery. So I will probably go through that properly in another video, but ultimately what it is, it's trying to keep my exercise up, managing it alongside my stress levels, getting out for walks in nature preferably as much as I can, and I'm hitting about 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. It's not about the steps for me, it's just that's kind of where I know I'm at my happiest, when I move for about an hour alongside exercise. I am doing visualizations every morning. So the visualization for right now is about how I'm going to feel after the surgery. Because last time wasn't exactly the nicest way for it to go. That is a story maybe for offline rather than here. And yeah, I'm just going to show little bits and pieces of my life as I go through it and talk about it on a weekly basis and what's really coming up for me. Which is very important, because I think we need to learn to look at this stuff from an emotional perspective as well. So yeah, I might give you a second vlog on my first week and how it went, and I hope to see you all soon, and thank you for joining me.